Welcome to Beekeeping Today podcast, your source for beekeeping news, information, and entertainment. I'm Jeff Ott.
And I'm Kim Flatham.
Hey, Jeff and Kim. Today's sponsor is Global Patties. They're a family-operated business that manufactures protein supplement patties for honeybees. As we're all thinking ahead to spring, it's a good time to think about honeybee nutrition. Your honeybees may be malnourished after what it was a pretty rough winter. Feeding your hives protein supplement patties will ensure that they produce strong and healthy colonies by increasing brood production and overall honey flow. So with spring approaching, now is a great time to consider what type of patty is right for your area and your honeybees. Global offers a variety of standard patties as well as custom patties to meet your needs. No matter where you are, Global is ready to serve you out of their manufacturing plants in Airdrie, Alberta, and in Butte, Montana, or from distribution depots across the continent. Visit them today at www.globalpatties.com.
Just a quick note before we get going. We experienced a couple technical issues during the recording of the podcast you may hear, including a train in the background. If so, we apologize to you in advance. We're working to avoid those issues in the future. And with that said, let's get on with the show. Hey, Kim, well, today we've got a great podcast, and this is very timely, too, with the springtime and all the springtime chores and getting set from the winter. What do we got lined up?
Well, it's been around long enough, Jeff. I'm beginning to call this time of year BIP season because we begin to hear from them a lot this time of year. Of course, they run the Bee Informed Partnership survey every year, and they inundate us with convincing stories and articles and arm twisting to get people to fill out the survey so their data gets even better and better. And of course, they've got the Sentinel Apiary Project, which is also something that they work on. Today, we've got two people who are really hip deep in the survey data. We've got Dr. Geoff Williams from Auburn University, and we've got Selina Bruckner, a PhD grad student that works with Dr. Williams. And Dr. Williams is sort of in charge of the bee lab at Auburn and works closely with the BIP people. And Selina is coordinating the survey analysis with the BIP people. So I think do I have that right? And now here's Jeff. I'm going to say two things. One is we have two Jeffs today. So if one or more of us get confused, it's probably your fault because my name's not Jeff. And if it doesn't work out right, both of you can answer. So
well, it's a wealth of Jeffs today. So
there are today, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. So we'll start with you, and Jeff, tell us kind of your role both at Auburn, if you will just lead off with some of the high points, and then where you fit in with the BIP people, and especially with this survey. We're going to get to the survey itself in a minute.
Okay, well, thanks, Kim, for that introduction. I guess your statement on waist deep into the Bee Informed survey is kind of an understatement. Most days I feel like I'm up to my eyeballs or even higher. So I'm an assistant professor at Auburn University, so I have research responsibilities as well as teaching and outreach. So I'm happy to announce that on yesterday was the last class for our semester's bee class. So I'm feeling very relieved. Unfortunately, I've got a ton of marking to do, but fortunately, other members in my lab are also helping out with that. So I see the end in sight, and I guess connected with that is the Bee Informed National Survey. So we're open until the end of the month, April 30th. And so again, at Auburn, I'm running the Bee Lab, and part of that and part of our sort of program is to coordinate with the Bee Informed Partnership and run that management and colony loss survey every year. So this is our second year running. I guess I'll let Selina step in to tell you if it's smoother this year than last year. There's always little hiccups and new things that we have to sort of come across. But yeah, we're having a good time trying to twist Beekeepers of America's arms to fill out that survey.
Well, yeah. So I guess in terms of whether this year's survey was smoother than last year's. I guess we were ahead of certain things, not in all of the tasks that we had to perform, but for sure we learned from previous mistakes and try to to make it better this year. And we had much more help this year, which we really appreciated, that the entire lab basically was stuffing envelopes and licking envelopes until we filled all the mailboxes that went through the entire United States.
So I don't know if anyone's familiar with a Seinfeld episode where George Costanza's fiance, I think she dies from licking wedding invitation envelopes like glue. So I made sure that was my number one priority, that students are not licking toxic envelopes. No student deaths so far.
I guess the question is, licking envelopes, sending what to whom?
So one part of the survey is online. That's what the majority of the beekeepers would actually take, the online survey. But we do send every year around 1,000 paper copies to larger beekeepers, so commercial beekeepers, but also participants of the Sentinel Apiary program and the APHIS program. So those are members registered with BIP, and so we do particularly send them out to those people.
Well, I could, being a bee culture spokesperson here, I can raise my hand and I can say, from where I'm sitting, we have a machine that would do 1,000 envelopes before coffee break in the morning. So next year, keep us in mind, send us the envelopes, send us the letters, and we will be happy to send them out for you.
Ooh.
Oh, we would really appreciate that.
We should write that down.
So we don't forget. Well, last year we had to go through the whole process of sending out bulk mail and bulk envelopes through Auburn University. And I'll tell you, I think I'm a master at the USPS right now. I know every rule in and out just through that bulk mail research I had to do.
Well, keep us in mind next year.
No, I appreciate that.
That part of what you do is really easy for us. So, yes, write it down. Remind us sometime right after the first of the year next year, and we'll get it coordinated for you. Geoff, you said you took the survey online. How long did it take you to do that?
Oh, it was really quick. Of course, I don't have a whole lot of many hives, but it took maybe 10 or 15 minutes. It wasn't long at all.
You must be an excellent record keeper, too.
Well, I do. I shouldn't say excellent, but I try to keep everything in my little black book here, and I keep it written down. And I know that if someone was to use another product like Jim Wilkes Hive Tracks, they could also really complete it quickly, too. And I think they're tied into the survey program, aren't they?
Not necessarily the survey program, but we do work with them through the Bee Informed partnership, and James has been pretty instrumental in our group in the past and currently. So I guess back to the online survey real quick. Another thing that would probably speed up beekeepers is that we do offer a preview version. So on the website, they can click a little link that sends them to a PDF, and essentially a beekeeper looking to fill that out can review that before they sort of go through the process of submitting their online information. So I think that probably also speeds up the average beekeeper, and also probably allows them to sort of get into the mindset of like the kind of questions that we're asking for them. So I think that would really help smoothen things out and allow them to fill it out quite quickly.
There are 109 questions to this survey. It is I'm not going to say serious, but it's definitely something you want to prepare for when you sit down to take this. But I think where I want to go more than anything with this, and I think it's really unfortunate, is that when this survey is done, it's called the bee loss survey, the winter loss survey, and that's what makes the headlines, and that's what the media focuses on. And I'm looking at these questions because I went through them today. Geoff, you went through them.
Yep.
This is an incredible amount of information gathering on management. What do people do? How does it work? Why are they doing it? All of these things. And I'm really kind of disappointed that people don't pick up on that more than just right down to the bottom line, bee loss. So share a little bit of the value of that to you, the management part of it, not just how many colonies died last winter?
Well, we're having our silent pause, not because of the Geoff confusion, but maybe Selina and I don't know who to answer that or who should answer that. I guess I'll take a stab at that. And I mean, I guess one reason why it's known is in short form, kind of the loss survey. That's historically what it is focused on. So that's how this Bee Informed Partnership Survey began, as a winter loss survey. And then a few years later, I believe 2010, 2011, that's when Bee Informed added on further questions, because it was clear, we want to know and understand the trends and the data in terms of colony mortality, not only in the winter, but in the summer, so like annually. But, we want to know more. We want to try to learn and understand why those losses are occurring. And I guess that's where the management data kind of step in and help us fill sort of that gap and lead us in the right direction. We have to be cautious that those management data and the survey, I mean, they are looking at trends and correlations. So we really need to go now and experimentally test those trends that we're seeing. But ultimately, a beekeeper has a huge role to play and is very instrumental in how their colonies will do during the course of the year. So it just makes sense that we're asking beekeepers what management practices they're performing in terms of sort of identifying, things that are helping lower losses, as well as some things that are promoting losses, for example. And Natalie, our colleague up in Maryland, and Karen, our executive director, I think they've referred to 2019 as the year of the data. So right now we're in a really great position. We have long-term data over several years that now we can sort of examine those data year after year and try to find kind of hot spots or targets that we can now focus on, like what management practices seem to be most important for colony losses.
And colony survival.
Exactly. Yeah.
That to me was the part that was important. What do I have to do so that when I put my bees to bed in October, they're still there in April? And Geoff, I'm guessing that when you went through that survey, I went through it earlier today, and I just kind of ticked off questions as they went. Okay, Geoff Ott, as you went through the survey, the two Geoffs again. One of the things that I saw, and my bee year last year was abysmal in terms of the amount of time I was able to attend to my bees, and my bees paid the price for that. I'm sure that I saw today that, oh, darn, I didn't do that, and I didn't do that, and I didn't do that, and my bees died. And so to both of you, once you gather all of this information and you start doing the statistics on it, I know that you really want to know this stuff, but how can you get that information into the hands of people like me and Geoff, and then from us into the hands of the people who can go, yes, if I do this and this and this, I'm have a much better chance of having bees. How can we harvest this data to the best advantage of the beekeeping industry, I guess, is the big question.
So first off, I just want to highlight that we do communicate our annual data on our website. So if you go to the Bee Informed Partnership website, there's a research portal there where individuals can look at colony losses by state across the country for several years. And as well, we have our management survey data there. So we as beekeepers can go there and have a look, play around with the data based on the region or the year, as well as kind of the management technique. Like, did you treat for Varroa? What products for Varroa did you use to treat for Varroa? And so we can play around with those numbers already to see kind of hints and trends on what is related to colony loss or, flipping that around, colony survival. So that's where we're at right now. And that is actually available to beekeepers to go look at and play around.
You're slicing and dicing the data a lot, the previous data. The thing that challenges me, because I moved to the Pacific Northwest from Colorado and I moved to Colorado from Ohio, and beekeeping in the Pacific Northwest is way different than either Colorado or Ohio. Are you able to, or are you slicing the data so that you could say, well, this treatment works really good in the Southeast, but doesn't work in the Pacific Northwest? Are you looking at different geographical or maybe statewide? Can you break it down that way to see what's working in what kind of climates or microclimates even?
Yep, for sure. So on that research portal, you can break it down by states or regions. So you can select one or all, or 2 or 3 different states to try to gather those data. So if you're interested in looking at management practices related to colony losses in the Pacific Northwest, I mean, I guess you'd select Oregon and Washington, maybe Idaho, if that's considered Pacific Northwest.
Depends on who you talk to.
And so some of the data that Natalie is now analyzing, she has grouped it between northern and southern beekeepers, because we know that, again, climate is very important in that situation for beekeepers. And so she's in the process of sort of finalizing those data and those analysis, comparing north versus southern beekeepers. And I guess you could say beekeepers that are working in sort of temperate climates versus more mild climates, because the coastlines stretch up quite far north, and you can have some mild climates. So we are certainly aware that weather and climate is very important, and we're looking to kind of address that. And I don't know if I'll reveal all of her analysis and results right now, but sort of a hint is that there are some overlap between temperate beekeepers and more mild climate beekeepers, but there also is 1 or 2 things that appear to be different that's related somehow to colony mortality. So, we're certainly aware of that. And kind of on a related note, we're also aware that different sort of categories of beekeeper are also really important to related to colony mortality. So, for example, your backyard beekeeper with 30 colonies versus a commercial beekeeper with 2,000 colonies. They're typically doing things a little bit fundamentally different, and that too can have a strong influence on colony mortality. So we are aware of those things, and we're currently sort of looking through those data, and hopefully we can live up to that name Natalie and Karen stated, that 2019 is the year of the data for the Bee Informed Partnership.
Well, that'd be really interesting to be able to see and even contrast hot and humid versus cool and humid, or cool and moist, or hard winters versus mild winters, and so just do all that cross correlation to see if any of those are having a different impact, both on treatment modalities or treatment plans, whether it be an oxalic acid treatment versus a chemical treatment, that type of thing, and just kind of see what is working, what isn't, based on your microclimate.
Yep, exactly. And I mean, Selina and I, before in Auburn, we were both working in Switzerland, and their climate's quite different. Oxalic acid, great in the winter, no brood. But I can't, as a Canadian, I can't say that there's much of a winter in Alabama, and the bees kind of agree with. There's still quite some brood in those colonies in January.
Yeah.
Some of the questions the management questions, I found interesting, and Selina, I'm looking at the statistics person here. The questions you ask lead me to believe that you could make a recommendation to say that if you want best results where you live in Ohio, you're going to use an 8-frame hive, and you are going to use comb that's 2 years old or less, and all manner of things that you could recommend that I do, looking at the data that you have. And you can say, for best results, the people doing it this way, whatever way I'm talking about, you want to talk about, are going to lead you in a better direction than people who aren't doing those things. Are you there yet?
So again, I have to say that mainly Natalie is in charge of the management part. So I'm not that much involved, at least not in the statistical analyses. But just from talking with her, for sure, that would be the ideal case. And I guess the more beekeepers actually fill out the survey and tell us which management practices, which hive equipment or like bee equipment works for them, the more kind of the better recommendations we can actually give to beekeepers in this particular region. Because if one beekeeper answers from Ohio and tells us, well, 8-frame hive and oxalic acid treatment worked for me, that's not really enough data for us to say, oh, we recommend that to all beekeepers in the state. But sure, the more beekeepers that tell us which practices work to keep their bees alive, the better we can advise new beekeepers. Well, not only new beekeepers, but what they should do to keep their bees alive, because that's in the end what we would like, I guess.
Well, the other part of that, of course, then, I mean, I'll go back to my original, or the question I had earlier was, Geoff, you said the results are available. Where are the recommendations? When will recommendations be available? Can I go on your website? Are you going to publish scholarly or public, regular articles that say, looking at the Pacific Northwest where Geoff Ott is, this is what we're seeing after several years. We're seeing that this kind of hive, this kind of varroa treatment, this kind of feeding schedule, this kind of leads to a better management practice than doing it a different way. That makes sense?
Yep. So I guess I'll kind of direct you back to that research portal in terms of the univariate data. And so those univariate data are there for beekeepers to look at. Of course, it's up to a bit of interpretation. And again, this is correlational data, but like all this univariate data on terms of like what a beekeeper, the success they had if their colonies had drone brood removed regularly, that's there. That's something that a beekeeper can go look at and compare with, beekeepers who didn't remove drone brood. So all those univariate data are there pretty quickly after we perform the survey, because we know it's important to get feedback back to beekeepers quickly. In terms of multivariate data, and this is like where I guess our data are most powerful. And I guess we could say that, we do have big data, so to speak, from a bee perspective. It is complex, and we do have I don't know the technical amount of data we've got, but we have a lot of data now collected from various means, the survey, our tech transfer teams. And so now we are getting into position for us to analyze those data and communicate them. And so those results will certainly show up on the Bee Inform website. As like academic institutions, peer-reviewed publications are also important because we want to get feedback from our peers. So right now, we are in the process of submitting some of those or working on those data for peer review. And it's not necessarily because we need that for like our academic CVs per se, but that's a chance to get critical feedback on the work that we're doing. And because, we want to provide the best information to beekeepers that we possibly can. So that's why it always takes a little bit of time for, researchers to start communicating results. And it's not because we're just sitting on it. Well, sometimes we actually are because we're too busy, just like everyone else. But a lot of the time we're just waiting for critical feedback, and, we want to provide the best information we can. And unfortunately, sometimes it just takes time. So we're diligently working on that. And I guess you folks will be the first to know. And, hopefully we'll have some articles in Bee Culture and ABJ that are communicating results. If anyone has had the pleasure of listening to my colleague, Dennis Van Engelsdorp, we're also, he's also communicating some of these preliminary results out to beekeepers, particularly regarding like these univariate data. So it's coming. I feel like we're really on this cusp of moving to the next level, so to speak.
I think just like one thought that I would really like to add, because that's kind of off topic, but I'm taking an extension class this year and learned a lot about communication and stuff. And I think it would be really beneficial, like going back to your question, how to communicate or make recommendations that actually reach the beekeepers, because that's the target audience, right? They have to make the change basically. And I think it would be really cool if like this communication of best management practices for certain regions could somehow be presented at, I don't know, state meetings from like the State Beekeepers Association, or even on a local club level. That just includes people that are actually willing to, again, as Geoff said, interpret the data and then actually put it in words that everybody would understand it. But I think like state beekeeper meetings would be a venue to give a brief overview of the most recent results and recommendations.
And hopefully it even trickles down further than that. It's like kind of like an umbrella where, there's a couple key groups that are communicating the result, and it moves down, like Selina said, to, state organizations, and then the little beekeeper clubs in different regions really adopt these practices. I mean, that's the end goal really, is like everyone is sort of working together. But
well, the data that you're producing, I'm sure, is going to be picked up by people like the Honeybee Health Coalition and extension people, where you're headed, Selina. I spent a lot of years working in extension, so I'm very familiar with what has to be done and how many things get in your way to get it done. And I'll take this another part, because I spent a lot of time teaching and I've spent a lot of time learning. But your data can also, I wonder, should your data be able to tell me, I'm just starting out and I don't know much, or I've been doing this like Geoff out here for several years, or any of our listeners who've been doing this for a lot of years. There would be value. I know there would be value to the person who isn't sure which end of a hive tool to use yet, and to the person who has 20 apiaries with 50 colonies per apiary. All of those people need some kinds of this information. But as I see it, and I may not be seeing it all, or I may be seeing it wrong, it's not that easy to take apart and use those pieces individually. And is that being done? A, and B, if it isn't, could it be? And there you have it.
So if you look at the survey, we do collect this kind of data. We do ask beekeeper, how many years have you kept bees for, and so on. So technically, yes, we do have. So the interesting part about the survey, I think, is that it's kind of a 3-part survey. So we have the loss part, then we have the management part, and when it comes to how long did you keep bees for, that's like the socioeconomic part. So there are 3 kind of parties, I guess, involved, and we are not there yet that we kind of combined all data sets. But technically, yes, we do have the possibility to connect those dots.
It would be nice, like a database management program. I'm talking to Geoff out here, who's a tech person. If I could do sorting and tell me about 1-year beekeepers, 3-year beekeepers, and 5-year beekeepers management role. Break it down like just a database sorting sort of a program.
That's what I was talking about, slicing and dicing it and looking at it at the real narrow level and looking at any kind of correlations. Just real quick because I know we're running up on time, but one question, and this might pertain to address some of the question people don't want to answer surveys and participate in surveys. But as a beekeeper, as a private individual, how is the data protected and anonymized, and so that me as a beekeeper sitting on North Street in Olympia, Washington, is not individually singled out?
So the survey is, or like the participants are protected. We don't know who they are unless they provide us with their email address. That's pretty much the only way we could track people, but that's only if they are voluntarily giving us the information.
And the same thing with the people who submit the paper surveys, their personal information is not provided at that or entered into a database at that time also?
So the paper surveys, we do know who the recipients are because we put the labels on, and they send it back to us with like a particular code that they are signed with their particular programs. So let's say Sentinel. So we do know who those people are, and we have to enter the surveys ourselves to the online platform. So, but again, those people don't necessarily have to answer the paper survey if they don't want to. They can also, answer the online survey if they think, well, I don't want to give too much information away.
Right. Well, I think that'd be that's an important point to make, is that you do protect the information, and the beekeeper can enter as much or as little information as they want to. I mean, we want more information to make the survey meaningful, and so that we can slice and dice it as much as possible, but also protect the beekeeper and their private information.
Mm-hmm. And so we, I guess on one hand, from like the online survey point of view, just like based on the technology that we use, Selina and Natalie can identify who's actually submitted those surveys in any case. But, in the terms of the paper survey, where in theory we do know who has responded to those paper surveys. And that's very important for us because we can link colony management with like their Sentinel apiary data. But at Bee Informed, we also follow, pretty clear principles of data management and confidentiality, so that, despite one or two key people knowing or having that information, we don't share that. Like, we never want to share any kind of information that would ever single out one or more like specific beekeepers, and we take great care at that. So that's also, of course, like a trust thing, trusting that we're working in the best interest of not only the individual beekeeper but all of the beekeepers across the country, and we don't want to break that trust in any way. So.
Good.
I'm going to break in here for half a second. I know that part of what you guys do is shake the trees and get beekeepers to fill this thing out, and I know that Selina has put something together that is helpful and hopefully will convince even more beekeepers, and in the form of a poem. Selina, I turn it over to you.
All right. Well, I have to admit I'm a bit nervous, but it's fine. So I did, or I was voluntold pretty much to come up with a poem, I guess. It's I wrote one, and I guess I was invited to read it, so that's what I'm going to do. Well, technically it was an Easter poem, but it's kind of late for Easter, so just bear with me. I had to modify it a little bit. All right, so that goes to all the beekeepers in America. The month of May is so close, but before we get there, we would propose for you to listen to this piece of poetry, which is much more than pure pleasantry. April is almost coming to an end, most of which our bees have spent foraging on blooming flowers, while you invested all your powers in adding boxes and catching swarms, because now that the weather warms, bees get busy and buzz around, making their beekeepers really proud. The question is, have those bees survived last winter's freeze? Or did you lose a colony? What an awful tragedy. Did you check all of your hives for the dangerous varroa thrives? Every year, BIP likes to ask these questions to fulfill their task. Quantify bee losses in the states, identify treatments and their rates, look at managements in each season and ask, may these be potential reasons why honeybees will die? You can help to answer this huge why. So before April ends for real, we kindly ask you to reveal your April notes from last season. Answer the survey, it's for a good reason. The survey closes on April's last, so go online now, take the survey fast. We appreciate your time and wish to say, be informed and enjoy your day.
Woohoo! That's good.
All right.
That was quite good.
Welcome.
That was very good.
Thank you.
Selina. Do you
I
mind
know
if
that you have to run, Selina. You have another class to attend.
Yes,
so
sir.
if you want to slip away, thank you for being here today. And now we know where you are and how to ask you questions.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I'm betting we'll be back.
Selina? And
Yes,
before
sir.
you go, I will put that poem on the show notes on the webpage with your permission, and
Sure.
people can read it to their bee groups. There you go.
Good.
Yeah, that's a good bee bedtime poem, I guess.
Very good. Well, thank you, Selina, for joining us today.
Sure. Well, thank you. Have a good day.
All right.
And we'll go back to you, Geoff. What have we missed? What don't we know that you want us to, and more of the same?
Well, I just hope that we've conveyed, the importance of doing this survey. I mean, we really need these long-term baseline data to know, our colony losses or colony survivorship, if you want to spin it around to like glass half full, so to speak. And this is really the opportunity for beekeepers to, voice their words and, their experiences, because it's not just beekeepers looking at these data or researchers looking at these data. It's also policymakers, for example. And a lot of this, understanding what's going on in the country and our industry is important to policymakers in making their decisions in terms of, let's say, allocating resources to research or to teaching or to extension outreach efforts, for example. So, I think just holistically, I believe that this survey, has a great potential in the future, particularly now that we have those powerful data that we're now analyzing. And I think we're moving on to the next step now in terms of being able to communicate those results and hopefully effectively to beekeepers in terms of management recommendations. But of course, we need to, we're still working slowly, and beekeepers need to bear with us. It takes time. So I guess that's my parting word is please fill out that survey, and the benefit of the industry.
Certainly to the benefit of the industry, and the more people you get, the better. The more, what's the word I want? The more confidence I have in the data, exactly. As being able to help me make better decisions. One thing I want to throw out here, and I don't know if you're aware of it or not, but a recent survey, actually an update of an ongoing survey, is we hear about how many bees are lost every year. What we don't hear about is how much corn, soybeans, tobacco, vegetables, grain crops are lost every year, and those percentages are nearly identical. But we don't hear that, and that always has surprised me. I'm not complaining that bees get a lot of attention, because it has certainly helped us accomplish some things and draw attention to some of the problems. But there are other problems out there, and we aren't hearing about those, and those too need, I think, attention. And just a thought I wanted to bring up, because it was a statistic that's really surprised me when I read it recently.
Yeah, well, I wasn't familiar with that, and I completely understand. I mean, there's a lot of good things going on in the country, and there's also things we need to work on. And of course, we want to improve honeybee health. We want to improve wild bee health too, not just focus on honeybees. I think it's really important to understand that we need both groups of bees to work together and move towards like a more sustainable agriculture. But at the end of the day, at least me in particular, I'm here to beat the drum of honeybees and promote honeybee health. So I'll leave it to my colleagues in the corn and soybean industry to beat their own drum, So here we're here to promote honeybees.
Well, you're exactly right.
Of course, and the environment, of course. Yeah.
I couldn't add to that other than, if you are listening to this and you have yet to fill out the survey, shame on you. You've only got a few days left. And Geoff, a couple of years ago, I think maybe last year, BIP gave us a bonus day. You gave us 1 day into May. Is that any chance of that happening for those people?
Well, like Selina is really the boss here, so I'll have to ask her.
Okay.
But I think it's possible. I think we can have our May Day bonus day. So I want to say, please fill out the survey by the end of April, but we'll probably have that survey open 1 day longer just for any stragglers there.
Yeah. So the good message is that if you wake up May 1st and you say, oh my gosh, I forgot to survey, go on out to the website. The website will be in the show notes along with the other sites also mentioned in today's show. That'll be in the show notes. Go out there and chances are the survey will still be available. Fill it out and be part of the solution going forward. I think it's great.
Good way to put it. Good way to put it, Geoff. You got be part of the solution. You got all weekend, guys. Come on. It's going to rain almost everywhere, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So you got nothing better to do. Go fill out the form.
Well, not in the Pacific Northwest. We're actually going to have a sunny weekend. So get it done on Friday.
I don't believe that.
It's our spring treat. It doesn't last. So we will have we will rush to get the podcast out. As the listeners probably sitting there now saying, yeah, they did actually. And it'll be out before the weekend, and hopefully they'll get the message out to our listeners, and they can get it, convey the message to their friends and fellow beekeepers to get the message out and take the survey.
Geoff Williams, thank you for being with us. We appreciate your time and your energy. And Selina, please again convey our appreciation for her being here and her contribution. We hope that this helps you get some more forms filled out and a better chunk of data to analyze. And we are going to get you back here and have you tell us what you found out. So be ready for that.
That would be a good one.
Thanks for the opportunity. We really appreciate it. And thanks again.
Thanks, Geoff. Well, that was good. I took the survey, like I said, a couple days ago, and it was pretty painless, went fast. And in fact, the thing I liked about it was that it gave me some things to think about this coming season as I'm working on the bees and to follow up with. And so next year I'll have even more information to add. So I'm glad we had Geoff and Selina on the podcast today and the message that they had with the work they're doing on the survey.
You just brought up a point that I hadn't even thought about, Geoff, and that's exactly right. Once I went through this thing, I thought, holy cow, I need to be thinking more about this and less about that and maybe my timing. But I think the message Selina and Geoff had all of the information we need. I think we can wrap this up very easily and say, go get the survey, fill it out, send it in, be part of the solution instead of part of the problem.
I agree. All right, well, that about wraps it up for this podcast. Before we go, I want to encourage our listeners to rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or wherever you download or stream the show. Your vote helps other beekeepers to find us quicker. We want to thank our episode sponsor, Global Patties. Global Patties is a family-operated business which has been operating for over 17 years and manufactures protein supplement patties for honeybees. Check them out at www.globalpatties.com. And while you're there, give them a shout out for sponsoring this great program with Geoff Williams and Selina Bruckner of the Bee Informed Partnership and the Colony Loss and Management Survey. Also, feel free to send us your comments and questions to questions@beekeepingtodaypodcast.com. We'd love to hear from you. And finally, we want to thank you, the Beekeeping Today podcast listener. You're really why we're here and why we enjoy doing this show. Anything else you want to mention, Kim?
Very quickly, we've got Jerry Bromenshank coming up, I believe, don't we?
Yes, we have a session set up with them tentatively for next week, so it'll be out the first week of May. We believe so.
Jerry's been studying the acoustics inside of a beehive. He has an article in our magazine this month called "The Songs of Bees," and you won't believe what he's been discovering on all of this, Geoff. It's amazing. So I think it'll be a good time.
This will be. I'm really looking forward to talking to Jerry, and he'll talk about that and maybe the master beekeeper program he has up there at University of Montana. And because I know some folks around here that have looked into that and maybe even taken it. So I'm looking forward to having Jerry on. And we have a great lineup of guests coming up this summer. So Let's get
And
to it.
Just tuck away Pollinator Week.
Right.
5 pollinator shows in a row that week. We hope.
That's something else we're working on. A pollinator week, and we'll have 5 guests 5 days in a row, and so keep the positive pollination week going. So
Okay.
it'll be good.
Thanks, Jeff.
All
Take
right.
care.
Thanks, Kim. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.